All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to East Bay Mud's Water Wednesday series. My name is Mary Campbell, and I am a community affairs representative at East Bay Mud, and I will be your host for tonight. Water Wednesday is a monthly East Bay Mud event where we talk about important topics pertaining to our water and wastewater. For tonight's discussion, we will be diving into the recreational opportunities available in the Mokelumne watershed. This area, home to the stunning Pardee and Camanche reservoirs, offers a wide range of activities for outdoor enthusiasts. Tonight, we will hear from Chuck Beckman, the manager of Watershed and Recreation, and he will share about the recreational opportunities available and provide insights into how we can all enjoy this area. All of our Water Wednesday events are recorded and posted within a week for viewing at ebmud.com/waterwednesday. And by attending tonight's event, you do consent to being virtually recorded. If you have questions during the presentation, please feel free to post them in the Q&A function throughout the presentation. Tonight, we have East Bay Mud Senior Community Affairs Representative Catherine Horn, who will be answering questions as we go, and we will reserve some time at the end for those questions. If you think of a question after the event or your questions don't get answered live, please email waterwednesday@ebmud.com. The email address will be shared again at the end. So let's get started. Right. Presentation mode. All right. So Chuck, we'll let you take it from here.
All right, thank you, Mary. And thanks everyone for coming tonight. I'm always happy to talk about recreation, and it's good to see so many folks on the call tonight who are interested in hearing about it. So as Mary mentioned, I'm the manager of Watershed and Recreation for our Mokelumne watershed, which is the area around Pardee and Camanche reservoirs. So Mary, we can advance to the next slide. So I'll kind of just give a brief overview of what my division does, and then we'll kind of jump into the recreation side of things. So I manage a staff of about 22 folks, the majority of which are ranger naturalists who work on our watershed. They maintain the watershed and patrol our watershed and the recreation areas around the lakes. We kind of have to balance a pretty diverse set of responsibilities broadly across with our division across the watershed, but recreation is really kind of a big part of what we do in the Mokelumne Watershed and Recreation Division. And I'll just plug real quick here. We do our division does hire rangers every try and hire in January. So if you or someone you know is interested in a ranger profession, we're typically hiring for a 12-month position. Keep an eye on the East Bay Mud website under the careers tab, and you'll typically see those ranger positions post late fall, early winter time with the intent of hiring in January. And of course, if you have any more questions about that specifically, you can throw those in the chat or I'll answer them at the end. Next slide, please, Mary. So I wanted to start with a really broad overview of East Bay Mud's water supply, or our kind of water picture, if you will. If you look over on the right side of the screen here, you can see the Mokelumne River watershed, that area defined in blue. And that's area is essentially the bowl or the basin that collects rainwater and snow and drains into the Mokelumne River. Most of that area is federally owned. It's U.S. Forest Service land. East Bay Mud doesn't have direct control or management of those areas. But the area that we're going to focus on tonight is just on your screen to the left of that watershed area, Pardee Reservoir and Camanche Reservoir. Which are the areas, or the areas around those are what my division and I manage. Pardee Reservoir is our storage for our primary drinking water source, provides over 90% of the water to East Bay Mud customers in the East Bay. And that water is transferred down a system of aqueducts, which you can see as the blue line kind of running from right to left across your screen to our East Bay Mud service area. East Bay Mud does also have recreation opportunities in the service area on our watershed down there, which is a similar size, has more reservoirs. We have hiking trails there. We have a couple of recreation areas, the San Pablo recreation area and Lafayette recreation area. But really our focus tonight is going to be on what East Bay Mud offers around Camanche and Pardee. Next slide, please, Mary. So this is just a little bit closer shot of the area around Camanche and Pardee Reservoirs. And I just wanted to throw this in there. It's the map is not to scale, but it does show kind of the major highways, major towns and cities around our area. So to our north, north of Camanche and Pardee is Amador County, and Ione sits just to the north. The city of Ione is just to the north of Camanche Reservoir, and Jackson's a little north and east of Pardee. To the south in Calaveras County, the closest large city is Valley Springs. And this is a map that I can share with anyone who wants it later. If you're interested in having this, if you're interested in coming up, this is a good tool to navigate around our relatively rural watershed area where often Google Maps doesn't serve well. I'll point out here that one of the main reasons that we provide recreation is that Pardee and Camanche dams also have a powerhouse. So they generate hydroelectric power. In order to do that, East Bay Mud needs a license from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or what we call FERC. Now, that FERC license comes with conditions. There are many conditions, but one of them is that East Bay Mud is required to allow the public access to the lands and waters of its hydroelectric project, which is Camanche and Pardee Reservoirs. So we are actually mandated by FERC to provide recreation. Next slide, please, Mary. And so as we move through the discussion tonight, I'm kind of going to move from upstream to down. So we're gonna start at Pardee Reservoir, talk a little bit more about the reservoir and what we have to offer around Pardee. So the Pardee Dam, construction of the dam was completed in 1929, so a good long while ago. Again, Pardee provides 90% of the total water supply to the East Bay. Because it is ultimately the main water source for our customers in the East Bay, we actually prohibit body contact with water in Pardee. That's actually a state law. We're required to keep folks from swimming in Pardee Reservoir. And that is because it is our main drinking water source. And really the next stop for the water in Pardee is a treatment facility in the East Bay. So we do that in order to keep maintain a high level or good water quality in Pardee and high quality drinking water for our customers in the East Bay. Next slide, please, Mary. So even though the dam was built all the way back in 1929, it was not until 1958 that Pardee Recreation Area opened to the public. Initially, after constructing the dam, East Bay Mud had, justifiably so, concerns about water quality and public access, whether that was from boats, people fishing, really any sort of public access. So Pardee was closed to the public and maintained as strictly a drinking water reservoir for a long time. It wasn't until a lot of pressure from the public, mostly anglers, fishermen around Pardee, and also some pressure from the California Fish and Wildlife Commission, that Pardee was opened. And the Fish and Wildlife Commission actually ended up partnering with East Bay Mud to develop a lot of the Pardee recreation area. And really what what that partnership developed has remained unchanged through today. So the recreation area, Pardee recreation area specifically, offers 141 campsites and 56 RV sites. The primary attraction to Pardee and Pardee recreation area is fishing. Again, we don't allow folks to swim in the lake, which consequently makes the lake really attractive for folks fishing from boats. We have a really good fishery at Pardee. We stock trout regularly throughout the season when Pardee is open. There's also a very healthy population of kokanee, which are a type of landlocked salmon, very popular fish in the summertime. Have a good warm water fishery, so bass, bluegill, and those sorts of fish. So really our busy time of the year is February when the park opens until the weather really starts to heat up. We've got a good window of fishing there, and then again in the fall. I will note that Pardee recreation area is actually closed for a short period every winter. We typically close between November and February, and that is because we recognize that the reservoir is also a really good stopover point for migratory birds, migratory waterfowl in particular. So we try and give the lake a rest, allow the birds that are migrating in the winter a good place to stop. And generally also during that time, the fishing tends to be a little bit slower. So we do have a seasonal component to the Pardee recreation area. But it serves those migratory birds well, and I think generally serves our customers pretty well also. Next slide, please. So also around Pardee, we have the Mokelumne Coast to Crest Trail. Our primary access to the Mokelumne Coast to Crest Trail is the Campo Seco staging area, which was on that map that we reviewed right before jumping into the Pardee Reservoir discussion. Campo Seco, it's basically a large parking lot. We have ample room for a lot of trail users to park. We have a lot of equestrian use on this trail and out of the Campo Seco staging area. So this trail is popular year round, especially with equestrians. We have a lot of ultra runners, ultra marathon folks who like to run our trails. I think really the best time, our trails are open year round, but really the best time to access our trails, particularly out of Campo Seco, is fall, winter, and spring. Tends to be pretty warm in the summertime, so between June and September, really. A lot of folks do come out to hike. It's still a nice trail. It just tends to be a little warmer than some folks like. The Mokelumne Coast to Crest Trail, which stretches from the farthest point to east, is roughly around the community of Mokelumne Hill. Our section of trail goes all the way then down to Burson or Wallace area. So our portion, what I say our portion, is the portion that's on East Bay Mud land of the Mokelumne Coast to Crest Trail is pretty extensive. It is also a part of a larger trail system. So as the name suggests, the Mokelumne Coast to Crest Trail, not yet, but one day will stretch all the way from the crest of the Sierras at the headwaters of the Mokelumne River, all the way down to the Delta and the Bay where the Mokelumne River meets the Bay. Still a long ways to go for that vision to be fulfilled, but there's a lot of work being done to see that all the way through. And I'm happy to say that the East Bay Mud portion is completed and is in good shape, and really a great trail to hike. I can't say enough about it. I will add some sections of our trail in the spring will actually host wildflower tours. So generally we're kind of a March, April, May timeline, depending on how the spring weather treats us. We will have a ranger guided hike from the James Bar portion of our trail to look at some of the unique wildflowers that exist in the upper part, or what we call the river arm of Pardee. Even in a year where there's fewer wildflowers, generally the display is pretty tremendous. We're going to see a lot of California poppies, a lot of yarrow, a lot of really cool and interesting wildflowers, and a lot of unique wildflowers depending on the year and depending on the weather. So if that's something you're interested in, again, keep an eye on the recreation website on eastbaymud.com. Typically, early part of the year, January, February, we will have our dates for wildflower hikes posted. Let's see here. We can go to the next slide, Mary. So moving downstream to Camanche Reservoir. Camanche Reservoir was completed in 1964. So after Pardee was built, after Pardee Recreation Area was opened, Camanche Reservoir came into the picture. Now, Camanche Reservoir serves a different purpose than Pardee. Camanche's primary function is as a regulator, if you will, or essentially flood control for communities downstream. So Camanche Dam's real function is to be able to hold back water, especially in years where we have, like last year, where we have a lot of rain, a lot of snow. East Bay Mud is able to control the release of water from Camanche Dam to ensure that communities like Lodi, Ocampo, communities downstream from Camanche Dam aren't flooded. So it's an important part of our operation that really serves those downstream communities. In addition to providing that flood control, the water in Camanche Reservoir is also used by East Bay Mud to meet some of our environmental obligations downstream. The main one that I'll highlight is our fish hatchery program, which I'll cover in a few slides, but I'll say right now that those releases are, or the water that's held back by Camanche is really important for our hatchery staff who manage the hatchery, and for pulsing flows, which is essentially planned releases out of Camanche to stimulate salmon returns coming back up the river. So really, really critical part of what we do. Also another one of those conditions of our FERC license with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. Because Camanche is not a direct drinking water supply, we do allow body contact with the water. So Camanche is sort of a kind of a full suite reservoir recreation. We allow swimming, we allow all types of boating, including water skiing, wakeboarding, that sort of thing. So it's probably it's definitely our biggest attraction in the summertime. It's certainly a larger reservoir than Pardee, and again offers a lot more variety in terms of what the public can do there. Next slide, please. So at Camanche, the water really is the attraction. So between generally Memorial Day and Labor Day in the summer is when we see our peak visitation, and most folks are coming to Camanche to be in the water, to cool off, to enjoy the lake, to boat. But we also offer a lot of tent camping and RV camping. In fact, we have over 500 campsites between Camanche North Shore and Camanche South Shore. So Camanche North sits just outside of the community of Ione, just north of Camanche, and South Shore is just outside of Valley Springs to the south. We kind of treat them as one, even though they're two separate facilities. But again, between the two, over 500 campsites and 200 RV sites. And the difference being that RV sites have full hookups. They offer electricity, a sewer connection, and a water connection for folks who are coming in with a trailer or an RV that have the capability to connect to those utilities. In addition to the RV and tent camping, The concessionaire also offers cottages or cabin sort of amenities that are available year round, and these are really good for folks who maybe aren't quite comfortable, tent camping or don't have an RV or a trailer. This is a really good way for folks to be able to visit the lake and be able to spend the night in a little bit more comfort than you would sleeping on the ground in a tent. Next slide, please, Mary. So again, the water at Camanche is our big attraction. Boating is the most popular activity at the recreation area. There's a lot more going on at Camanche, but boating really is the big one. Like Pardee, there's a really great fishery at Camanche. The concessionaire at Camanche stocks trout year round in the lake, so there's a great trout fishery, a really great warm water fishery that includes bass, catfish, and bluegill, crappie type fish. I think I mentioned this, but I'll say it again just in case I forgot to. Camanche is open year round also, so we don't have the same seasonal restrictions at Camanche that we do at Pardee. So we tend to see kind of a shift in activity throughout the year at Camanche. Again, that summer season, very popular for boating, folks wanting to come out and fish, whereas in our off season, the cooler months and into winter, we see more folks coming in to fish or just to camp and enjoy a nice quiet place. Next slide, please, Mary. So for folks who don't own a boat or don't want to bring their boat to Camanche, the concessionaire actually offers quite a few options for boat rentals at Camanche. They have everything from party barges, pontoon boats that can carry a good number of people, to fishing boats for folks who want to get out on the water and catch some fish. That includes a couple of bass boats. And then all the way down to kayaks. These rentals at Camanche are very popular. The concessionaire maintains a pretty large fleet of rental boats. So during the busier months, there's not always boats available, but generally throughout the year, if you contact the concessionaire in advance, you're going to be able to get a boat or reserve a boat to take out on the lake. So if that's something you're interested in, I definitely recommend it because it's a lot of fun. There's more information on the concessionaire's website, which is at the bottom of the bulleted section of this slide. Kind of taking a step back, I forgot to mention, again, fishing, very popular activity at Camanche. East Bay Mud actually hosts a kids fishing day every year in April. Typically, it's the same weekend as Earth Day. This is a really fun event. It's really grown a lot over the years, and what it is just it's a free day for kids to come in and fish. So all days throughout the year we require our visitors to purchase a fishing access permit, and that permit, the money from permit sales ends up going into a fish fund that is collected and then used to purchase more fish to stock the lake. On the kids fishing day, the free fishing day, we waive those permit fees and allow kids under the age of 16 to come in and fish in an environment that has a lot of folks from our concessionaire, our rangers, and some other volunteers who live in the area will actually help kids learn how to fish. That's really the objective of the event. We get a lot of support from local emergency services, our California Fish and Wildlife wardens from Amador and Calaveras County come out. This last year's event, the game wardens actually brought a recruitment trailer that had a lot of cool, fun stuff for kids to look at and put their hands on. They brought out one of their service dogs, and they had a full archery target course set up. So it was a really neat day. It always is every year. We generally have beautiful weather, knock on wood. And we look forward every year to expanding that event a little bit more, because it's really great to see these kids, especially ones who haven't had any exposure to fishing or outdoor activity like that, have their eyes open to how much fun it is to fish, to be able to catch a fish and have someone teach them, you know, how to land it and how to prepare it for eating, if the kids are interested in that. So that's another one to look out for on the East Bay Mud website or on our social media around springtime. Again, that event typically takes off around Earth Day, so kind of late April, around the 20th. Next slide, please, Mary. So in addition to our water-based recreation, we also operate a hunting preserve just north of Camanche Reservoir. This is around the Rabbit Creek arm of Camanche. This hunting preserve, again, is a condition of our FERC license. So when Camanche was built, it ultimately flooded a lot of upland game habitat and ultimately limited opportunities for hunters who were seeking upland game or waterfowl to hunt. So as a condition of our license, we are actually required to offer hunting to the public. And we do that by operating the Camanche Hills Hunting Preserve. Now, the primary function at the hunting preserve is upland game and waterfowl hunting. So upland game is really pheasant, quail, chukar, all birds that exist in the 1,200 acre preserve just north of Camanche. There's a seasonality to that. So the hunt club or the hunt season is generally open October through March, and that's a season that's governed by the State Fish and Game Commission. So in those, during that time is when we typically see our most activity out in the hunting fields. In addition to the hunting opportunities, the Hunt Club also offers sporting clay and an archery course. Now, for those who aren't familiar, sporting clays is essentially a target shooting sport. It's where a machine with a little, essentially a clay frisbee, shoots this frisbee out into the air, and folks with a shotgun will shoot the targets. Even though this isn't the primary function of the Camanche Hills Hunting Preserve, it's one of the premier attractions there. So the Hunt Club has a really extensive, really well thought out clay pigeon course, just right near its clubhouse at the main entrance. If you're interested in learning more about shooting sports, or even just learning more about firearms or target shooting, or want to take up a really neat hobby, the concession staff at the Hunt Club can help you out with that. They do rent shotguns. They sell ammunition and clays right on site. So it's actually a really fun place to take friends, especially friends who might not be familiar with firearms. They have great staff on site there who can help folks that are new to firearms become more comfortable, and really can get folks hitting targets pretty quickly, within a day, which is a lot of fun. The archery course, kind of similar to the clay shooting sports. So even though the photo on the right there looks like this gentleman's shooting a deer, it's actually a target deer. So similar to the clay pigeon course, the Hunt Club has set up sort of a course of targets that are specifically for archery shooting. And this is really popular with folks, again, who are just getting into archery, who are curious about archery. We also have a lot of folks who are really dedicated hunters who come to the Hunt Club and just kind of keep their archery skills sharp in the off season when there's no game in season that they can actually hunt. And this facility, the Hunt Preserve, is open year round. They tend to reduce their hours in the summer season when it's clay shooting and archery only. But they also have a cafe and a clubhouse that has a great breakfast. So again, if you or someone or your friends are interested in visiting and learning more about it, there's a website at the bottom of the slide, camhills.com. I would recommend calling. You can look up the concessionaire's number on their website, give them a call. They're great folks, really friendly, and they can get you lined out on whatever sort of activities you'd like or are interested in at the Hunt Club. Next slide, please, Mary. So we're still moving downriver here, and now we're on to the Mokelumne River day use area, which is actually on the other side of Camanche Dam from the Camanche recreation area. So we're looking down at the bottom of Camanche Dam now. The Mokelumne River day use area is another one that's open year round. We do occasionally close the park or close the river when the releases out of Camanche, water releases out of Camanche are high enough. Last year, we ended up having the river closed quite a bit because we had so much water to manage coming out of Camanche, and the releases were enough that it posed a pretty significant danger to the public. So we ended up having the park closed for a good duration. But I'm happy to report that as of now, the park is open. The flows are just perfect right now for floating the river, rafting or kayaking, bringing a pet, or just hanging out in the shade here. This is one of our smaller parks, but I think it's one of our more interesting parks in that it is an actual river park. So most of our recreation facilities are based around a reservoir. This one's different. So this park is in a riparian area. We've got a lot more trees, a lot more wildlife. There's actually a ton of wildlife here. You can see otters, deer, all sorts of other critters. A lot of migratory birds or waterfowl like to hang out at this park. The main attraction here, again, most of our water-based recreation is really popular in the summer. But the main attraction here is actually floating the Mokelumne River, starting from the Mokelumne River day use area and then taking out or getting out of the river all the way down at Stillman McGee Park. So that's what most folks who come to the river in the summertime end up doing, is they'll park a car at Stillman McGee and drive up to the Mokelumne River day use area with all their friends, and then float down the river and hang out. It makes for a really, really great day. The river's shaded, the water is cool. It takes a good little while to float down, but it's just a really relaxing way to spend a weekend day, and a nice cool way to spend a weekend day. The other big attraction, and I've already mentioned the fish hatchery below Camanche Dam, but a big attraction in the fall is our salmon and steelhead returns. So again, those pulse flows that come out of Camanche, generally starting October, are intended to stimulate salmon who are out in the ocean or in the San Francisco Bay to start their journey up the Mokelumne River. This park is really well situated to be able to observe and see those fish coming up, generally starting the end of October and kind of peaking around Thanksgiving. Last year, the Mokelumne River had a record-breaking salmon return. We're hoping and keeping our fingers crossed for another good return this year. If that's something you haven't seen, I'd really recommend a trip to the Mokelumne River day use area this fall. Again, right around that Thanksgiving time, the salmon return is impressive. You'll be able to see, just standing on the banks, these great big fish coming up to either return to the hatchery or spawn in natural spawning beds on the Mokelumne River. Really great experience. Again, if you haven't seen it, I really recommend that you try to. And the Mokelumne Fish Hatchery program, our salmon program, is, I think, one of the best in the state. So the returns are always really impressive. Next slide, please, Mary. I'll move along here. Real quick here.
Sorry, I'm not sure why it's stalling. Give me just a second.
So the next thing I was going to cover is, and some of you may have heard about this. This event was a pretty significant one for East Bay Mud and for science. But a few years back, one of our rangers who was investigating it was a follow-up investigation to a vessel accident that had occurred on one of our reservoirs, found some petrified wood on the shoreline. You know, this ranger having had a background in geology and a little bit in some paleontology, started looking around, and in addition to petrified wood, started finding some fossilized bones here and there on the shoreline. There we go, Mary, got it now. So the ranger on the right is the one who made this discovery. That's our ranger, Greg Franczyk. So he started finding more and more bones on the shoreline until he finally realized, my goodness, there's something really significant here. There's a lot of fossilized bones. And ultimately, Greg ended up contacting some paleontologists from a few universities in the state who came out and looked at what he had found and said, my goodness, this is a really, really significant find on your watershed. Most of the fossils that Greg has found are between 4 and 8 million years old, primarily fossilized mammals, a few smaller invertebrates and some fish. But this find has actually been really, really significant to the world of paleontology, specifically in California. Up until this discovery, there's not a lot known about this 4 to 8 million year time period. But Greg's discovery has unlocked just a tremendous number of specimens. There's been discoveries of new species that prior to this discovery, scientists did not know existed. Some really unique geological features that are going to be really important to science, specifically around climate science, and even some fish. So the photo in the middle here shows our manager, or our fisheries manager, who is looking at one of the handful of fish fossils that Greg discovered at this site. So a really, really neat find, and really significant. And Mary actually has a little bit more information to share on an event coming up showcasing our fossil find.
All right, let me see if I can get that shared again. Sorry about that. All right, so with that fossil find, we had an event that is going to be at the Wow Museum here in Lodi, California. So they sorry, get us back to that screen. All right, so it's called Mastodons Among Us, and it's going to be an exciting day of paleontology at the Wow Museum. So this is a family science museum, and Greg will be there along with many special guest paleontologists, including Jeanette Perlow, Professor Charles Daly, and Professor Dick Hilton. And so there's going to be 3 different presentations that Greg's going to give, and he'll have a lot of the bones and some replicas with him. So that's going to be on Saturday, August 24th from 10 to 4 p.m. And you can scan that QR code or go to WOW, the World of Wonders Science Museum's website to check out those tickets and that event. So with that, I'm going to ask Catherine to help me with some of the questions we've been compiling in the chat function. And so please note, we'll be answering a handful of questions that are broad and applicable to many customers. So if you have questions or concerns that we did not get to, or you think of something later, please email us at waterwednesday@ebmud.com and we can get those answers to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Chuck and Mary. Chuck, the question is, if somebody's interested in volunteering or helping to clean up Upcountry, are there opportunities available?
There are opportunities, and I can share a phone number here. I'll have to look it up because I can't remember it off the top of my head. A phone number that folks can call. If
I have it right here.
Perfect. Thank you,
So,
Kathy.
yes, that was my question. So the next volunteer day is going to be September 21st. It's the Great Sierra River cleanup. And so it's going to be a fun day cleaning up the banks of the Mokelumne River and Camanche Reservoir. So you can check it out on our website. I'll put in into the chat the link, or you can call 209-772-8260 or email volunteer@ebmud.com to volunteer for that. We also have some other upcoming volunteer days on October 19th and November 16th that people can sign up for.
And in addition to those those special events, we do have a volunteer program and a small but mighty group of volunteers who work on our trails. So they'll generally get together in fall and spring and do kind of just routine trail maintenance and some restoration work around our trails or fire roads.
So the next question is going to be, what other kinds of children's education programs do you offer Upcountry in terms of tours or scout tours?
So our group, we're always open and ready to host anyone who wants a tour. We don't really have necessarily a program for tours. It's kind of a, you call us and we'll figure it out sort of a thing. But we have what's called an RLEAP program. That's a ranger-led environmental education program. And that's work that we do with local school districts around our area. So Amador, Calaveras, and San Joaquin counties, where we will actually have folks come out, students come out, they're bussed out to the watershed, and a ranger will host an environmental education program. It might be based on water, it might be based on stream restoration or native plant surveys. It runs the gamut. But again, we're always open to new ideas. We do have a lot of Eagle Scouts come in and ask if they can do projects, and we do our best to accommodate those if they fit in with kind of our overall management strategy.
Awesome. Thank you. So we have another question. So, very, very topical and one we knew we were going to get tonight. So what is happening at Pardee? Why isn't it open for camping this summer?
Yeah. So, we opened Pardee this year on a limited basis because the water treatment plant that serves that facility, the entire recreation area, is being renovated. Basically, every component of that treatment plant was pulled out and being replaced with something entirely new. Unfortunately, that project's gone little longer than we had planned. So we were in this mode where we're offering day use only for this year. But the project's very close to being wrapped up, and I'm anticipating us reopening Pardee next year in February with the full suite of recreation amenities.
Okay, wonderful. Let's see. I'm not seeing any other questions. Let's just give everyone just a second. If you have any questions, please feel free to insert them into the question and answer. But I'm not. Mary, would you mind just briefly touching on what we're doing with the Salmon in the Classroom program for students Upcountry?
Sure. So last year, as Chuck mentioned, we had a record number of salmon and it was amazing. I mean, if you Our fishery staff always recommend that Veterans Day is the best time to come because that's when the salmon are coming back up the river. And last year they were everywhere. Like you couldn't walk across the river without stepping on one of them. That's how crazy busy it was. And so the schools up here in Upcountry have a program that we call Salmon in the Classroom. And so many of the students here get the opportunity to have the salmon eggs brought to their classroom, and they grow those eggs, and they are usually through the month of January and February. And in March, their classes come out to the hatchery and they get to release their salmon into the water. And we have a lot of educational stations for them to go through and just learn all about the amazing process that these salmon go through going out to the ocean and finding their way back to where they were born up at our hatchery. And so it's a really amazing process to learn about, and it's fun to get to bring that to the classroom and learn with these students.
Awesome. Yeah. And I should mention that Mary and I are going to be planning a public tour of the hatchery in November. We'll be in the midweek because that's when the spawning occurs. So there'll be more information on that. We'll look at mid-November. So please stay tuned for that, and hopefully some of you can join us. And then with that, since there's no other questions, Mary, do you want to talk about what our next Water Wednesday is going to be about?
Sure. So join us for our next Water Wednesday webinar. We're going to take a break in July, and we're going to come back on Wednesday, August 21st at 6 p.m. And we'll be highlighting some of our water conservation super savers and hear their story of water savings. So be on the lookout if you're following our social media channels. That's a great way to find out about the webinars as well as our water walks. So make sure you're following and subscribe to all of those different channels that we have. And don't forget to check back in a week at ebmud.com/Water Wednesday for the virtual recording of this event and information about our past and upcoming Water Wednesdays. So thank you all for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Chuck. Thank you, Mary. Have a good night.
Thanks, Chuck.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.